Good morning. Very good morning to all my students in DYE 100. As I mentioned in previous classes, we are already in week 12 and in a revision mode. Previous videos already covered chapter 1 and today I'm going to cover chapter 3 bit on spotted questions that might come out for exams as well as like revisions and touch on the surface, not so deep. Right, in this chapter, first of all, we will look into the definitions of the terms that I'm going to use throughout the chapter 3. So the first one is soil fertility. Might come out in exams, yes. Ask you to define what is soil fertility. So if questions come out like that, most probably 2 marks. There are 2 marks questions. Sometimes, usually it comes in pairs, pairings. Like define what is soil fertility, what is macronutrients, or what is primary nutrients. So you have to do explanations. Give a definition, you might get 4 easy marks. So here, soil fertility means the quantity of organic matter present. The fertility, how we calculate soil fertility, we count the organic matters in that particular soil, which will help in plant growth. So if you touch on the amount of organic matter present in soil is good enough, you can get 2 marks. So because as I mentioned in from our first week itself, definition means each person will have different definitions. But for soil science class, for soil science subjects, if question come out on definitions, you have to find the keyword of that definition. So for soil fertility here, the amount of carbon or the amount of organic matter, that is the keyword for a definition on fertility. The second slide is on a comparison study on fertile soil and also infertile soil. What are the differences between fertile and infertile soil? If infertile soil, you can compare in terms of the pictures here and also the number of pore spaces. These two pictures will talk about the whole topic here, fertile versus infertile. If fertile soil means you can see the movement of plant roots or the growth of plant roots and also water levels. So the drainage system is very good. Plant roots can go up to D layers. I'm not sure whether you can reach parent material or not. Most probably C, this parent material, most probably C layers. We have A, B, C. Can reach up to C if the soil is so fertile. You can see the growth of the plant compared with infertile, stunted growth or sometimes wilt, not enough nutrients, uh, stunted growth on the root as well as no drainage, very poor drainage. Plant nutrients. So what are plant nutrients? So the definition for plant nutrients is the essential elements needed for plant growth. That's all. If question come out asking you to define what is plant nutrients are essential elements. Why? Yeah, what's the function of it? To enhance plant growth or to boost plant growth or its need for plant growth. In the world, in total, we have 19 and plants only need 17 for its growth. We already look into definition of essential nutrients. We continue with deficiency. This means deficiency is the plant condition where an essential nutrient is not sufficient. Keadaan pokok apabila elements atau nutrient tak cukup. Symptoms adalah apa yang kita boleh nampak by is a visual sign or condition of the results of deficiency. Hasil daripada deficiency itu. Hasil kekurangan nutrien, apakah simptom yang kita nampak? Apa yang kita nampak berlaku pada pokok? That is symptom. Right, plant nutrients, we have a total of 17. From 90, plants only need 17. Out of that 17, 9 are macro and 8 are micronutrients. This question come out on your second test and most of you answer. uh, I don't talk about it in previous video. I already polished yourself. You are already polished. You all don't copy paste from internet. You are talking nonsense. Copying something that not relevant with our topics, or not relevant with the soil science subject. When I ask question, list down 5 macronutrients. Some of you answered it: carbohydrates, lipids, protein. Right? These are the macro and also micronutrients. You can see here they only list down 6 because for macronutrients you have to include the essentials. CHO, although we didn't apply them in terms of fertilizer as an additional. When plant uptakes are usually, CHO are usually from photosynthesis process, not from soil. Right here we have the nutrients as well as the functions. We already did class activities on this. As you all present on choose groups, they present on these topics. So nitrogen usually green leaves, right? So the main function is to for photosynthesis process. Phosphorus or root growth, and also for to have fruit formations. Potassium usually for root growth as well as disease resistance. And we have other functions of sulfur, magnesium, calcium, and these are micronutrients. Okay, so step by step, how not so this is the nutrient, the signs or the visual symptoms that we can see on plants, on our crops, and how we going to solve it, how we overcome those symptoms, those deficiencies. Of course, in normal term, we apply fertilizer, but the symptom is regarding what? What element are missing? How we identify that? There are a chart, and actually uh, we already did our lab, either lab 4 or 5 of that. Sorry, lab 5. Your last lab report on this, right? You choose your plants and we identify. We identify the problem is what kind of symptoms. We're seeing whether from younger leaves or older leaves. And we identify whether the either if it's yellowish color on the leaves, which part of the leaves, whether either it's in the middle or in the veins or on the edges. A simple comparison, they compare using corn or maize leaf. If the healthy ones dark green, if it's lack of nitrogen, it's will be slightly green or sometimes it's yellowish. Sometimes yellowish. If they severe nitrogen deficiency symptoms, you can find it will be yellowish in color. If P deficiency, usually purplish. If K, wiltings, you can find wiltings on the edges of the leaves. And if spotted colorations, it's due to disease. Sometimes viruses attack on our leaves, or sometimes kulat attack kan. So it will be spotted deficiency symptoms. and further pictures to show the different deficiency symptoms as well. This one also same on nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. The symptoms deficiencies on carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, magnesium, sulfur, calcium. I also added on micronutrients. So this is for copper. Sorry, this is for boron, copper, chloride, zinc, nickel, and iron. Usually, if it presents on a lot, you find started growth. If not enough, also you can see the leaves are always on facing downwards, and you will have short, short, what we call yield, lesser yield. This is our molybdenum and manganese. This slide we already cover from our labs. Nutrient availability, we have three type of nutrient soil, whether the nutrient are readily available, slowly available, not available. Usually, if not available, are those that are locked in the soil. They are not plant cannot uptake those nutrients. That's why we count total for phosphorus and also nitrogen. We will count the total N, total phosphorus in soil, and also available N as well as available phosphorus. Usually, if total N and P, you will find from the soil samples, and the available ones you can find from the plant leaf samples. And both have different analysis methods to identify or to determine the nutrient level. Of course, sources of nutrients in soil. Sometimes question can come out, ask you to list down the sources of nutrient in soil. And even for your test tube, yeah, the questions you can find this question on your test two as well. I spent quite some time to explain you about the diagram, and you also take about more than half an hour to analyze this chart, right? During our class time. Basically, you have to mention all the wordings in the picture or in the graph, and you have to mention like relative plant growth. This is the percentage of plant growth, right? If less nutrient, this is less nutrient, mildly available nutrients, optimum level, nutrient available in optimum level. Okay, so this very quick, slightly higher and very high nutrient availability. Extreme low level and also extreme high level of nutrient causes toxicity and deficiency. If mild will cause deficiency, you can see in the colors. If optimum level, your plant growth will be 100%. For example, if your paddy, yeah, we take paddy. If paddy can grow for 1 meter, that's the optimal level. Paddy cannot grow 1.5 meters because the nature of paddy itself, it can grow 1 meter. So 1 meter, that's the maximum growth. So we count it as 100% growth. If we apply less fertilizers, might affect the growth. The growth will not achieve 100%. Might be 50%. If less than 50%, if the plant is less than 50%, the growth less than 50%, we can't or we consider it lacking of nutrients or toxicity level. They are very high. That means you have a lot of nutrients. You put a lot of fertilizers. That's why fertilizer application is very important, and you have to do calculation. How much fertilizer needed to apply? You have to do the calculation. We already covered during our class. We already covered during our lab 4 on fertilizer calculation. This one, you're all very familiar with this. Yet, when I ask question on your test too, some of you answer, I don't know, you Google it and answer something else. Many times I explain in class. This shows those students who answer incorrectly, it shows that those students didn't follow my class. Any of my class. I repeated many times what is for R for R. Okay, that's all for the first part on chapter 3. So we'll continue with our fertilizers after this. Thank you.